When I was in college, I studied psychology as well as elementary and special education. One of the overlapping lessons was of the findings of Swiss developmental psychology researcher named Jean Piaget. He published his work in the early 1900s and died in 1980. One of his key theories was about the perception of conservation and how it changes based on age and stages of development. You can try this with the little people in your life. Place 7 candies like M&Ms or 7 blocks of the same size or pennies in a line. Next, count out 7 of the same object and place it in a line next to the first line so they are identical. And the child should agree that the lines have the same amount. Then stretch out one of the lines so that you still have 7 in each line, but one line has greater spaces between the objects. Children younger than age 5 usually change their answer now, say that the stretched out line has more. This is called pre-operational stage. Around the age of 5 to 7, kids tend to perceive that the stretched line is still identical in quantity to the other line, and hence have transitioned to what Piaget called the concrete operational stage. He wrote of studying the construction of reality in a child. It's really fascinating how people often fit in his developmental stages from age 0 to adulthood. Educator Maria Montessori wrote of planes of development that guide materials used in classrooms, led with her philosophy. Educational psychologist Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development is my favorite model for understanding what makes people act and react. He wrote of conflicts that a person must resolve in order to progress to a higher level of thought and reasoning. Erikson was influenced by Freud's stages, but Erikson's theories are more contingent on social interactions instead of a more isolated internal and personal development like Freud proposed. How in the world does this connect to the gospel? Well, did you know there's a model of development that describes how we connect with faith? This is new to me, but I find it fascinating. James Fowler wrote fairly recently, beginning in the 1980s, about the way humans progress through leveled stages of faith. The gospel today describes a man experiencing profound faith. In Matthew chapter 9, we hear this account. As Jesus passed by, 2 blind men followed him, crying out, "Son of David, have pity on us." When he entered the house, the blind men approached him, and Jesus said to them, "Do you believe I can do this?" "Yes, Lord," they said to him. Then he touched their eyes and said, "Let it be done for you according to your faith." And their eyes were opened. James Fowler was a Methodist theologian who described the levels beginning from ages 0 to 3 in the primal stage of faith, where a child transitions from an unconscious development of faith to the basic idea that there is a God who loves me. Ages 4 to 7 is described as the imaginative stage, where faith is almost seen as magical and largely depends on the parents as role models. The literal stage is from approximately ages 6 to 12, where a child grows to ask questions and sees God as a superhero managing good versus evil. From age 13 through young adulthood, the conventional stage of faith sees people desiring to participate more in faith community and viewing God as the authority of moral justice. Personal faith often develops from about age 20 and is often marked by rebellion and withdrawal to evaluate. This might be seen when people claim they're spiritual but not religious. Conjunctive or mystical faith is possible often as an adult is in her 30s or 40s. This is when we become more aware of the divine in all aspects of life and tend to reconnect to our faith communities. There's a connection between the individual and God in a more meaningful and personal way, in spite of acknowledging doubts and questions. This is where we connect with the Holy Spirit and acknowledge God's will. It's apparently rare for middle-aged adults and older to reach the final stage, called universal faith. During this stage, the older adult lives a selfless life with awareness of the unity of all God's creation. Faith will defy words and description, and there's a profound sense of security and contentment living a self-sacrificing life. So where are you? Where am I? Where were the blind men in the gospel? Were they literally moving from one stage to another as we witnessed? And as was recorded for the thousands of years we've been reading the New Testament, maybe that uncomfortable feeling you have that you are not faithful enough is really just a developmentally appropriate stage that you can embrace for the now. Point to Jesus and get yourself to church. Soak it all in and rest in the knowledge that your spiritual growth is possible according to your faith as well, just as Jesus promised the blind man thousands of years ago.